The following program is to provide entertainment and information. It is not considered to be any legal or investment advice. Good morning, appraisers. Let's talk some real estate. You're listening to the Voice of Appraisal, the #1 appraisal podcast in America that brings you the latest news and information from the front lines of the real estate market, anything from market conditions, appraisal regulations, cryptocurrencies, appraisal foundation news. Folks, you have a question, we have all of your answers. We are the one-stop source for all of your real estate appraisal information needs. If you want to be in the know, you have definitely tuned in to the right show. I'm your host, Phil Crawford. A special Friday show today, Kevin. A special call to action, Kevin.
You're working me too hard.
I'm working you a lot because the market is going crazy. The world is going crazy. The real estate markets out there are extremely emotional, and we need leadership in Washington, D.C., and we need good leadership and good perspectives from boots-on-the-ground appraisers in the ASB, the Appraisers Standards Board, and we need to have the right person at the right time. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring on my friend, a great appraiser from the Commonwealth of Virginia. We call him the Gladiator, Pat Turner. Pat Turner is a person who has been in this business for over 30 years. He has a lot of passion for it, as most of you know. He's a passionate person, but at the same time, he's a guy that you can always call up, pick up the telephone, and say, Pat, here's my problem, here's my situation, and he's not going to judge it, and he's going to listen to you. We need his kind of leadership and his kind of perspective on the Appraisers Standards Board in Washington, D.C., and we need your help. We need you to send an email, a letter of recommendation, to Arika, and it is spelled A-R-I-K-A. Arika at appraisalfoundation.org. Arika at appraisalfoundation.org. Would you please send a letter of recommendation up to Arika for Pat Turner to be on the Appraisers Standards Board? He's applied for the position, and we are happy to back him up. And I know I've got the proxy of a lot of appraisers out there today. We made a huge impact in Washington, D.C. when it came to Jonathan Miller being on that panel. Jonathan made some excellent connections there, connections that will pay off in the future. Now let's make that same impact and get Pat Turner on the ASB, the Appraisers Standards Board at the Appraisal Foundation. We're going to talk to Pat in just a minute. Something else, Monday's show. Monday's show, I've got the Reverend on, the Reverend Brian Gerard from the great state of Texas. We're going to be bringing up things that are going to be biblical. And when I say biblical, I mean truly biblical. So do not miss Monday's show as well. What Pat and I talk about, we hit on a little bit during our interview. We're going to break it down even more during Brian's interview. This profession is at the crossroads of destruction. It's at the crossroads of either we're going to be relevant and we're going to be here for the next 10 years, or we are not going to be here because we are going to be driven out of business, not because the banks do it, not because the homeowners do it, not because the realtors do it, but because economic conditions will do it. We are living in strange economic times with negative interest rates, negative mortgages, bond market melt-ups, yields at the lowest they've ever been before. We are living in times where we could be looking at a massive, massive real estate bubble, or maybe even a real estate market that goes more towards rentals than ownership. We could be looking at the end of the American dream being home ownership, but the American dream just being out of debt, not being beholden to anybody else like an indentured servant. These are the times that we are living in today. They're extraordinary, and we need extraordinary leadership. We're all tired, and we feel like we can't take it anymore. And that's why we need license number 0004. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to present our interview with the Gladiator, Pat Turner. And ladies and gentlemen, we have on a line our special guest, license number 0004, the Gladiator from the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Pat Turner. Pat, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Thanks, Phil.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on the show, and we've got a special call to action today to talk about you, your experience in the appraisal profession, where you've been, where you're going, and everybody needs to talk about you being on the ASB, the Appraisers Standards Board at the Appraisal Foundation. So, Pat, give us a little bit of history about you, about Pat Turner. Who is the Gladiator, Pat Turner?
Whoa, that takes a lot. That'll take a lot of time. I graduated from the University of Richmond.
Yes, sir.
Went straight into the appraisal field at a local assessor's office, county assessor's office. Switched counties, went to another assessor's office. From there, I went to work for Savings and Loan as a staff appraiser. From there, I went and started my firm in 1980, and I've been an independent fee appraiser since 1980. I had earned the SRA and SRPA designations from the Appraisal Institute in 1979.
Okay.
I no longer hold those designations, and I will say voluntarily.
Okay.
I have joined the ASA.
Great organization.
And I hold the IFA designation from them. I served the Appraisal Institute numerous positions, both locally, statewide, as well as region. I taught for the Appraisal Institute in various areas of the country. I still teach actively here, mostly in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I've been involved in all aspects of appraising, from commercial, industrial, residential, agricultural, rural, multifamily, anything and everything just about you can think of. In 1990,
yes, sir,
I decided to drop back that my first love was residential work, and that's what I've been doing for the last 29 years. Since that time, as you know, Phil, I have been involved with the coalitions that have come to fruition over the last decade or so, and am very proud of what that has brought about. We went from a gathering of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia's coalitions, thinking on the regional basis, to where now it's grown to 30 states that are members of this national coalition.
Yes.
And that is very, very important, and it's a very, very strong, loose-knit, but strongly committed people from across the United States that are appraisers or appraiser-related. And we are representative of the great majority of licensees in the United States.
Yes, sir, I would agree with you. And the one thing that you're leaving out, Pat, the most important thing that you're leaving out, is the fact that you've got more passion for this profession than I know of anybody out there today. You've seen a lot, you've been through a lot, and you've seen all aspects of what we do. You've got more passion than most people do.
Well, that's both a blessing and a curse, isn't it, Phil?
It could be, but you handle it very well, though. You do a great job at it.
Well, you're kind. You know me well enough to know that I don't whisper very well, and I don't hold my tongue very well. I say what I think and what I think is right, and I say what I think is wrong. And yes, there are always gray areas, but I just hate to see us negotiate away our profession, and I hate to see us negotiate away our integrity and the public trust that we have spent my lifetime trying to preserve and protect and defend.
I totally agree with you, and I will have to say this as well. If you're in a situation when you're inside of a house and it's starting to crumble down around you, you want to have somebody loud next to you making sure that you know you get the heck out of the way. And the one thing about it is, Pat, is that this house and this foundation that we're dealing with right now in this profession is starting to crumble. It is starting to have a big effect. The natural market is starting to take over, and believe it or not, the marketplace is starting to regurgitate the regulation that we have in place, and it's time for regulatory reform. And I think it's time that Pat Turner, the gladiator, the man that's been here for the last 29, 30 years, goes up to the Appraisal Foundation and offers a level of leadership that it hasn't had before. And it is so important right now, Pat, because if we don't have people like you up there making an impact in Washington, D.C. and at the foundation, I fear that this entire profession is going to be on its way out. And not because of us wanting to get out, but because the marketplace, through larger E&O insurance policies and premiums, through all of these different aspects, could actually put us into a bad position.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm hearing more and more that as soon as somebody has a complaint filed against them, whether that complaint is valid or invalid, it becomes next to impossible to obtain E&O insurance. And as you know, if you can't obtain E&O insurance, you're not in business any longer
Okay,
in
Pat,
this field.
The Reverend Brian Gerard from the great state of Texas, you know him. You hung out with him at
Yep.
Appraiser Fest. By the way, Pat Turner is 2018's Appraiser Fest Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. It was such an honor to give you that award. And I'll tell you something, he joins me on Monday's show to talk exactly about the E&O insurance policies and the premiums and what effect that's going to have on appraisers. And I'll tell you something, Pat, if we don't have regulatory reform very quickly, that's going to be a snake eating its own tail. And that will be the quote-unquote straw that breaks the camel's back, because that will create a massive shortage. This is coming down the pike, and the foundation needs to have you up there to be able to offer leadership. The one thing that Pat Turner offers that a lot of appraisers don't is Pat's phone is always available for any appraiser. How many appraisers call you on a regular basis to roll things by you from all different parts of the country? So many people do, because that's Pat. They have a lot of comfort with you to share their experiences and to share their issues. And I think that's something that the foundation definitely needs at this specific moment in time.
Well, I like people a lot, and I love the people that are in my profession that are dedicated to it and are concerned about the welfare of the profession, but also the welfare of their own personal, professional reputations.
Very good point.
That's important. You've got to preserve your reputation, which preserves everyone's reputation. And you said something very interesting just now, Phil.
Yes.
And you said that it's a snake that eats its own tail. I remember 29, 30 years ago when all of the conversations started talking about the big data and EVMs.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, back then I kept saying, and I say it again today, that data is a tapeworm that does nothing but continually eat itself. And I think anybody that does not understand that corrupted data is going to yield corrupted results.
Mm-hmm.
And corrupted data happens if you let that data get tainted, get stale, or is developed by somebody that does not know what they are even collecting.
It's a very good point. I tell you something. Here's the issue that we run into. And this is something because you get a lot of phone calls. I get a lot of phone calls. And I'm going to be honest with you. We talk about the board situation, and we talk about the regulation, the way it's set up, and the need for reform. Pat, I've gotten phone calls from appraisers who have been in this business for a long time. These are honorable people. They've got reputations, like you said. And they've told me flat out, Phil, I just don't want to deal with the uniform standards anymore. I don't want to deal with it. And you know what it is? It's not the standards. It's the uniform standards. Yes, they change them every 2 years. And yes, there's issues inside of USPAP. It's the regulatory system. They don't want to deal with the slander, the threats, the almost blackmail that they're getting from people when it comes to these state boards. I think a lot of people inside of the real estate agents profession, I know a lot of people in the mortgage profession, they know that that's something they can hold over top of the appraiser's head. Look, if you don't do this, I'm going to go ahead and report you to the state board and cause a lot of problems for you. This is where we are right now. And now you've got a great deal of people out there saying, hey, look, you know what? I don't want to deal with uniform standards because I don't want to take on that liability. Yes, I'll have my designation. I will be a designated appraiser, but I don't want to take on the liability of USPAP just because of the way the regulatory system is set up. 55 jurisdictions, 55 different interpretations, 55 different directions. This is the issue that a lot of really seasoned and veteran appraisers are having right now, and I think this is going to be an issue that's going to really start to affect the foundation. And the foundation could have some major issues of credibility on its hands if they don't get a hold of it. And that's why they need somebody like you up there to know what's going on, to know what the boots on the ground appraisers are saying, and really reflect their concerns on a national level.
My thought process is, and I go along with you, that what people say is they don't want to have to deal with the uniform standards anymore. I think what they're really saying deep down in their hearts is, I might not mind dealing with the uniform standards, but what I don't like is the unequal application of those standards across the 55 jurisdictions.
Yes.
There's no uniform application of the standards going on. And I can speak to that right here in Virginia, in my home state. And there are different opinions that come down in North Carolina, that come down from Virginia, that come down from Ohio. And they don't communicate with each other. I would propose that it be a national licensing situation, or I would propose that we look at it, okay, a national licensing situation.
Yes.
Where everybody is, I'm not licensed in Ohio or California. I'm still licensed only in Virginia, unless I apply elsewhere. But any complaints and so forth would be handled at the Federal Reserve District level.
It's a good idea.
And they would be people that would be educated in how to handle appraisal complaints on a uniform
basis.
Plane.
That's exactly right. And the other thing is that there would be a definite process as to how that complaint would be taken. Because one thing that Brian and I talk about for Monday's show is the fact that if you belong to a state board right now, you have an obligation to the public. It's a public trust situation. But you're also obligated to tell the public that if you are providing or giving an unsupported complaint, or I don't want to use the word frivolous, but maybe just unsupported complaint, there could be additional ramifications on you as a member of the public or as a real estate agent or whoever it is. This is going to get serious, and we need to have serious conversations about all of this stuff. And I think you're the man that can bring that leadership to the foundation now more than ever. And this is not a cut on the foundation by any standards. I'm just saying we need somebody like you up there to provide this additional set of eyes on a regulatory level that I don't think they've had in quite some time.
Well, I've known some of those people that are on the board, and some of them are very, very knowledgeable and gracious people and knowledgeable people. But a lot of their positions are not as practicing appraisers any longer.
Right.
Although I know there are one or two on there now, but to me, it's get the suits out of the way and let's get the boots on the ground appraisers with the common sense to listen to what we have to do regulatorily and legally, but to bring to the table the actuality that's going on in the real world today, not ivory tower.
I totally agree with you on it, and I like the way you said it. We need more boots and less suits, and you are the boots, and that's the part of it. And I'll tell you something, Pat, we're going to do everything that we can to get you on the Appraiser Standards Board. I do have an email here. Listen to everybody. This is a call to action today. Look, we did it with Jonathan Miller. Jonathan Miller went to Washington, D.C., met lots of people. You just recently went to Washington, D.C., hung out with Maxine Waters for a while.
Yes, sir. What a pleasant, gracious lady.
And if I'm not mistaken, you told her the next time that there's a hearing in Washington, D.C., that there should be appraisers on that panel. And what did she say to you?
She said she promised that would happen.
There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. We need to have that kind of leadership, and thank you very much for going up there. I know you were up there along with Joe Meir. Who were some other appraisers there? I know Joe was there. Who else was there?
Bernie Bug was there from Richmond.
Bernie was, okay.
And two other colleagues of Joe's from Louisiana.
Okay.
And one or two others that I really did not get to speak with, but all of us went there at our own expense. We went there to hear, see, and experience what was going on there. And I think we came away with a good feeling that we're going to get a fair hearing if we are represented by knowledgeable, field-working appraisers.
You're exactly right about it, and I think that will make the difference, and it will make a lot of changes. We got a lot of things to do, Pat. Listen, this is a serious profession. This is something that really does protect an economy as a whole. And the way I'm looking at the economy now, when you take a look at the bond market and the yields are falling, and you hear more and more about the middle class borrowing so much money just to stay in the quote-unquote middle class, people are running out of money. Our profession is so important when it comes to these things, and we need to have the right people in the right place to make sure that this profession stays where it needs to stay. The profession is in trouble, and I feel like we can't take it anymore. So that's why we need license number 0004 from the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Pat Turner. Okay, I'm going to give all of you an email. It is Arika. It is spelled A-R-I-K-A. That's A-R-I-K-A at appraisalfoundation.org. Appraisalfoundation.org. Make sure that you send up your letter of recommendation for Pat Turner to be on the ASB, the Appraisers Standards Board at the Appraisal Foundation. And they will be making a decision, Pat, first of all, there's a deadline, right? There's a deadline for recommendations?
There's a deadline to apply as of August, believe it's August the 19th. There is a process that they go through applications. They weed out the troublemakers, and they will pick the people that they would like to have telephone conference calls with. They will do telephone interviews, and then my understanding is that there will be a face-to-face meeting of the finalists sometime in mid-November.
Okay, mid-November. So let's get everybody to get together to send letters of recommendation for Pat Turner. That's Arika at appraisalfoundation.org. Let's do it this weekend, and let's get this done. Let's get Pat Turner on the Appraiser Standards Board at the Appraisal Foundation. Okay, sound good to you, Pat?
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for the profession. I want to thank you, first and foremost, for your friendship. You and I have known each other now for what, going on like 3.5, 4 years, 5 years, whatever
Yes,
it is.
Sir. 5 years.
Just thank you very much for your friendship. It's meant the world to me. And
Me too.
let me tell you, we got to stick together in this profession, because if we don't, then this thing's going to fall apart.
What we need to remember, Phil,
Yes.
is we need uniform standards applied uniformly.
Well said, Pat Turner. Thank you very much for your time. God bless you. You're a great American. You're a great appraiser. And most importantly, you're a great Virginian, Pat.
Thank you, Phil.
God bless you, my
Appreciate
friend.
it.
God bless
Tell
you, man.
Kevin hi for me. See y'all.
So there goes Pat Turner, the gladiator from the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Kevin, what do you think? Can we get him on it?
I think there's a good chance. What I like is
Yes.
agent number 0004.
004.
Makes it sound like what he is, a super agent.
He is a super agent. He's a super guy. He's a super agent, and we need him on the Appraiser Standards Board. Please, over the weekend, next week, please send out a letter of recommendation to Arika at appraisalfoundation.org for Pat Turner to be on the Appraisers Standards Board. He's exactly what we need. The right person at the right time. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show for this week, and as always, I would like to thank you for listening as we journey through the mysteries and complexities that are, in fact, the real estate appraisal profession. I would like to thank our guest, Pat Turner, for being here today, and also Kevin Kinney, my producer, for their thoughtful insight and knowledge. God willing, we'll be back here on Monday with a powerful show, too. Another powerful show on Monday, reporting from the front lines of the real estate market. In the meantime, you kiss your spouse, you hug your children. Enjoy your day. Be safe in the field. You've been listening to Phil Crawford on Voice of Appraisal. We'll talk very soon.